19 after 8, thank you so much for staying with us. It's morning at NTV. If you're just joining us, it's still pounding hard in the streets, rain, and getting reports at some places, of course, in like Bwaise, the usual is happening. So update us with a picture on our WhatsApp number 0700 or you can tweet us at NTV Uganda, at morning at NTV, tag us there. My hand is at Brian Mlondo. You can also join in on the conversation this morning where we're using the hashtag Change the Conversation on mental health in Uganda. And yes, Uganda is only spending 0.7% of the total health budget on mental health. And as we know, Butabika is the only national referral hospital in this country, caring for hundreds of patients from all over the country. The numbers are soaring high. What can we do to intervene? My guest, very interesting story, and she says, I don't want to say she's a victim, but we'll hear her story. Very touching story, and you can follow all this on Change the Conversation. That's the hashtag this morning. We're going to do that on Everyday Life. Good morning.
Everyday Life
is brought to you by
Star Times.
Joining me this morning is Liz Kakooza from the Tumaini Foundation.
Yes, the
Good
Tumaini
morning.
Foundation. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I want to talk about the Tumaini Foundation later, but you literally hit social media with a wave where many of us were, we realized we had taken a back seat as far as mental health was concerned.
Yeah, as many people have, we don't realize that the statistic around mental health is so scary. It's higher than that of HIV. I mean, World Health Organization says 1 in 4 people is suffering or will suffer from a mental health condition in their lifetime.
Right.
I mean, someone put it into perspective the other day and said every family has someone suffering from a mental health condition. So, yeah, we've all taken a back seat, but it's high time we did something. Yeah, considering, well, the situation we have going on in our country.
What's your story? You gave a very detailed, story about what you went through.
Yeah.
Where did it start from?
Well, my story started actually a year ago this week. I've always lived with depression, undiagnosed depression, and that manifested itself all through my childhood and my teen years. But as a young adult, I got into, we say people that suffer from mental health disorders self-medicate at some point.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of a struggle with alcohol. So a year ago this week, I was chucked into the hospital with alcohol poisoning, of course with depression, and I had to go through treatment for all of that. Of course, because Butabika is the only national psychiatric hospital in the country, my family had to send me abroad for treatment, and I was very fortunate in that way. So we say in the 12-step program in AA, Step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening, we try to carry the message to others still suffering. And so in doing that, you're sort of taking out an insurance policy on yourself and your own recovery. So when I got into recovery, that was my way. I've always been a giver. So that was my way of giving back and also ensuring that I continued working on my recovery while helping other people out there. Yeah.
What are those things that, manifested during that time? Yes, you got into alcohol, but many people, I guess what people know about mental health is, people shouting or throwing stones or throwing stuff.
Yes.
What are some of those things that?
There's a Luganda say, my mom usually says it, I can't say it very well in Luganda, but you know what they say, a mad person in quotes doesn't start by throwing stones. And that is the case with mental illness. I mean, people in the past didn't come up with these sayings for nothing. The thing with mental illness is by the time someone has such manifestations of their disorder, it's advanced stages. And very often we ignore the early stages. Mine, for example, were things like, I was growing up, I had joint pains, which the doctors diagnosed as arthritis, but which I learned last year during my travels and seeing different doctors is those were pseudo symptoms of my depression. So it wasn't an
Really?
actual disease I was suffering from, but those were just manifestations and symptoms of a mental health disorder.
How's that possible?
It is very possible. Actually, there's a report I was reading just a few days ago that said many so-called malaria cases that are diagnosed as malaria are actually symptoms of mental health disorders. But because of the way our healthcare system is designed, the go-to solution is for a doctor to say, oh, this person has malaria, they have, symptoms of malaria, but we do not investigate at a deeper level to understand what people are actually suffering from.
This phase, how did it affect your family?
Well, it was very hard on my family, to be honest. It wasn't an easy journey for anyone, but I'm so grateful. My family has been very, very supportive from the very start. Even with my decision to go to treatment, I actually sat with my doctor and said, yes, I will go to treatment, and my family just jumped on board and they're like, let's do this thing. So
you said, I want to...
He presented it as an option, and I said, let's go for it. I mean, because I had gotten, when you get to the point where you say to yourself, there's something wrong, and something has to be done about this something wrong, that, when you're in that situation, you can't even find the words to describe it. You can't describe it properly, but you just know something needs to be done, and that's where I was. Yeah.
Your story reminds me of a friend, I guess she was also depressed, and for a very long time we thought, she was just being dramatic.
Yeah.
And one day we were called to Mulago, and, she had lost it, and we were surprised that, she was going through all this stuff. Did you get to a point where you are not sharing with anyone because you are depressed, you had, or you were assuming you are going through some issues that you didn't want to talk? Were there critical issues in that part of your life?
Well, thankfully, even by the time I checked into treatment, I was in therapy. My mom also, she doubles as a therapist. She has a qualification, although she doesn't practice. But I had a strong support network, like I said. I had friends I could talk to. But of course, yes, like you said, there are some things that you feel other people will not understand.
Yeah.
Because unless you've suffered from a mental health disorder, you really don't know what it feels like, to be honest.
Yeah.
But what we can do as a community, as a society, is, even though we don't know what it feels like, it starts by being empathetic towards people suffering from mental health disorders, and then slowly educating ourselves on these disorders, on the different disorders. I mean, if someone in your family is suffering from whatever it is, bipolar, depression, schizophrenia, educating yourself on these issues, and staying open-minded, remaining very open-minded, because these disorders don't all manifest in the same way. Everyone, also different patients have different manifestations, so it's on an individual basis, really. So yeah, remaining open-minded, educating ourselves, remaining empathetic towards people going through these things. Yeah.
We're going to open this up and open the phone lines. You can call in and contribute. And in the past, we've been very fortunate to have some people who are specialized in some of the issues that we've been talking about on this show. So you can join the conversation. The hashtag on Twitter, Facebook is Change the Conversation. You can also drop your comments there and talk to Liz Kakooza this morning as we look at mental health in Uganda. You got the opportunity of being treated out of this country.
Yeah.
As far as treatment regimens are concerned, what did you see that was so different from what we have here?
We failed to focus on what I believe in is focusing on behavior therapy. And I've mentioned this before. When I had a chance to visit Butabika. They're doing an amazing job over there. I still say it's one of the most well-maintained institutions in this country, in terms of health facilities. But we need to learn to focus more on behavior therapy. And that's one thing I think our institutions are lacking. Yeah, so that aspect is very important, because it's important to teach people living with mental health disorders above anything, above medication, pills. You know, you can only live on pills for so long, but teaching them how to live their lives beyond this disorder, how to live a fulfilling life, coaching them on you know, coping mechanisms. How do they deal with situations that would potentially have an effect or stress them out, or you know, and fuel their disorder, or fuel the symptoms of their disorder. So that's one thing, one key area we really need to look at in dealing with treatment for disorders that people in other countries have executed.
And that's what you went through?
Yeah, that's what I went through. In the treatment program I went through focused mostly on, contrary to popular belief, people have been telling me this, were you given anti-abuse? Anti-abuse is a pill that some doctors recommend. So you take the pill, and then you have, if you consume a drug or alcohol, you have adverse reactions to the booze, so you throw up or whatever. But we didn't do that in the treatment center I went to. What they focused on was teaching us about our disorder, teaching us about alcohol and drug abuse.
Right.
How does that affect your life? How does it affect your relationships with your family, with your friends, romantic relationships? How does it affect your work? How does it affect you, most importantly, as an individual and your mental well-being, and you know, and all of these things, basically teaching us how to, when we get back out into the world, how will we cope on, you know, in day-to-day situations.
Right.
Yeah, I like to tell people it was kind of like living in the Big Brother house, you know, because we were a small group of people, about 20 people.
Okay.
And you learn to interact with people suffering from the same issues, as you. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience, one that I wouldn't give up for anything in the world.
All right. 041456346. You can talk to Liz Kakooza this very cold morning, at least in Kampala. I don't know where you are, but you can call us and share with us what do you think about this. Good morning. All right. We seem to have lost that one. Liz, your condition now, when you came back, can we say that you got totally cured? Or some of those things, you know, you have those flashes. For example, you know, I've always told people, a brother of mine, you know, had epilepsy when he was young. And, you know, he used to feel it coming. And he would probably go and either lie down or, you know, be in a comfortable place. Because you can prepare it. You can, you know, feel it and you prepare. What's your situation now?
Well, you know, we never like to say, people in recovery, we never like to say that you're cured completely, because that in itself is overconfidence, and and you know what overconfidence does to anyone. But I wouldn't say I'm healed completely. We keep saying recovery is a day at a time. It's only about 24 hours. We say we live for every 24 hours. Every 24 hours you get through. You know, but some days are tougher than others. I'm fortunate that I've learned, I continue to learn coping mechanisms, ways to deal with, you know, my disorder. Every day is a learning experience. Every day I'm learning something new, you know. And the funny thing is, it's those little things that we've growing up we neglect in our lives, or not even growing up, but things you probably had in school, from your parents, from life coaches, from a therapist, that you take for granted. But those little things I've learned in my recovery have the power to get me through each day, to make to help me cope with my condition, you know. Things like meditation. I've learned to meditate a lot. Things like, you know, focusing on the things that I love to do, as opposed to focusing on things that ideally would make me depressed. Like, I love to read, so I read a lot more. I exercise when I can. I've learned it's important for me as a person to reduce my stress levels, to unwind, to unwind at the end of a day, have a chat with my friends, those little things that make my life a lot better and continue to aid me in my recovery. Yeah.
Well, if you are caring for someone, and in a few minutes we're going to look at what this circle of people around you can do, caring for people with mental health, because I have a feeling I think we are the ones who drive people out, because we call them baralu, and Dr. Brian from Butabika told me, you can't say someone is mad.
Yeah.
That someone is never mad.
Never. Yeah.
And so that support system are we the ones that push people, to go to these levels. Of 14563 462. You can join in on the conversation also on Twitter. Change the conversation. In our hospitals here, and in the bigger picture, what can governments do? Our particular government. Do you have a call? Okay, I got the call. Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Buya.
Your name, Nyabo?
My name is Resty.
Resty?
Yes, please.
Yes, your comment.
Yeah, I would like to inquire from that lady. She's been talking especially about the effects of alcohol abuse. But there are other factors that contribute to that mental health. Because certain people have an outlook to life. If something threatens you, then you'll find that you are not able to cope with that situation. I've seen this especially in schools. Are they able to talk to the students about such situations on how to handle them?
All right. Thank you, Resty, for your comment there. Let's talk about also the work that you're doing now through,
the Tumaini
Foundation.
Yeah.
This is critical.
Yeah.
And, I always complain on this show. I always rant about how when you go, for example, to Nakumat parking lot, kids are drinking alcohol, music is loud, and no one is caring.
Yeah, I get you. Thank you, Resty, for calling in and for your comments and for sharing with us. I won't mention the name of the school, but I gave a talk yesterday at a school with a mentor of mine and some people I work with. And when I asked one of the kids shared with me about, things they're going through, career, they needed some career guidance, some general guidance and someone to talk to. And I asked them, do you have a school counselor? And the kids are like,
You're speaking French.
Really? No, we don't have. And what's that? I was like, and it hits me again. Of course, at the back of my mind, I knew, because going through the Ugandan education system for, so long, I knew there was a gap in that area, but I didn't realize how big that gap was, And they said they have no one to talk to. So it's issues like that, going down into the schools and teaching these kids from, very early on, that it is okay to talk to someone about whatever you're going through. It is okay to talk without the fear of being judged, It's okay to talk openly about your issues, and that is what we are trying to do as a Tumaini Foundation. We have a project under the foundation called Tumaini Ingane. Ingane is a Zulu word that means child. So teaching kids from very early on and introducing things like bullying, which have an impact on children's self-esteem, and that in the long run creates, different issues. What people don't understand is mental health challenges are a combination of different things, of physiological, biological factors, environmental factors. It's a combination of so many things. You can't pinpoint to one particular aspect or factor and say this is responsible for someone's mental health. So it's a collaborative approach that we're trying to bring in and work around all these different factors, work with people doing different projects affecting
Right.
different subsets of the community
Right.
to address these challenges. Yeah.
Ms. Kakooza, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
And we'll continue this conversation on our social media platforms. The hashtag is Change the Conversation. Unfortunately, we are fast spent on time. But you can also talk to Liz. Your handle is at
Liz KK.
At the Third Culture Chick.
Yes,
You
at
can
Culture
just look
Chick.
for that. At Tumaini Foundation also.
Yes, at Tumaini FDN on Twitter.
FDN.
Yes.
Right. And we'll definitely invite Liz back to continue this conversation. It's critical. In Butabika, the numbers are as high as 1,200, and 60% of the patients at the hospital suffer from acute conditions. Also be able to talk to some of the doctors there to give us what they do for some of these patients. Instead of you tying your relatives with ropes, you know, in the compound, there might be some help for you. Continue the conversation on Twitter and Facebook. My name is Brian Rondo. Make sure you stay with us. When we come back, the sports team is here to give us the latest there. Good morning.